The behind-the-scenes activity at Manchester City never stops, and this time we have hot updates on the future of a rising star from the academy, as well as significant transfer speculation for the upcoming market. James McAtee, a promising young talent who has been attracting attention after some strong recent performances, seems to be at the heart of Pep Guardiola's future plans. At the same time, the club is keeping a close eye on names that could strengthen the squad, such as Bournemouth standout Antoine Semeno and Frenchman Magnus Akliouche from Monaco. The moment is full of uncertainties and promises. James McAtee, who has been considered one of the most exciting prospects in Manchester City's new generation, had his name directly mentioned by Pep Guardiola in a recent interview. What the Spanish manager said could be a sign of what is to come. The attacking midfielder had his first chance as a Premier League starter this season during that crazy match against Crystal Palace, which ended 5-2 in favor of the citizens. Since then, his name has been popping up more and more in discussions among fans and experts. The comparison made by Guardiola was bold and caught attention. He placed McAtee on the same offensive instinct level as Phil Foden, a well-established star and symbol of the club's academy. According to the coach, the youngster has an innate ability to appear in the right place at the right time, with a keen eye for goal and refined game intelligence. In other words, someone who, even at a young age, already shows maturity and composure on the pitch. However, the situation is more delicate than it seems. Despite the qualities he shows when on the field, McAtee has not yet been able to establish himself as a regular starter. This has fueled rumors of a possible departure from the club. Among the interested parties would be Bayer Leverkusen and Nottingham Forest. The lack of playing time has caused unease not only for the player, but also for clubs that see him as a valuable investment opportunity. Guardiola, in his comments, expressed affection and respect for the player. He said that he sees McAtee as someone who understands the City style of play perfectly and has the versatility to play in different roles. However, the coach also acknowledges that with such a squad full of options, ensuring minutes for everyone is a tough task. The competition for space is fierce, and often, young talents end up being sidelined. The big dilemma at the moment revolves around what is coming up in the calendar. On one hand, City is preparing for the Club World Cup in the United States. On the other hand, the England U21 team may call up McAtee for the European Championship, competitions that coincide in the calendar. This could force the player to choose between representing his club or his country, adding another layer of tension to his journey. Moreover, the City midfield is about to change. The possible departure of Kevin De Bruyne at the end of the season and the uncertainty surrounding Bernardo Silva's future could open up important gaps in the squad. This means that real opportunities could arise for McAtee if he chooses to stay and wait for his moment. The question is, will he have the patience for this, or will he decide to seek new challenges outside of Manchester? This type of situation has become increasingly common in elite clubs. With so many talents being developed and so few spaces available in the first team, even players with potential to be stars face tough decisions. Guardiola compared McAtee to Foden, which is no small feat, but even Foden had to wait for his turn, and perhaps that's the path the young midfielder will have to follow if he wants to make his mark at a competitive club like City. In the meantime, the club remains attentive to the market. One of the options gaining momentum behind the scenes at the Etihad Stadium is Antoine Semeno, a striker from Bournemouth who has been standing out in the current Premier League season. With 8 goals and 5 assists, the 25-year-old has become a key player in a team that surprised many by competing for a spot in European competitions, something unimaginable for most at the start of the season. Semeno's consistent performances have caught the attention not only of Manchester City, but also of nearly every top 6 team in the English league, with the exception of Arsenal. The curious detail is that Arsenal themselves had tested the striker during his youth, but chose not to integrate him into their squad. Today, the player shows that perhaps that was a misjudgment, becoming one of the most sought-after names in the market. The price set by Bournemouth is around $70 million. A considerable amount, but one that does not scare City's coffers, especially when it comes to strengthening the attacking department, an area that clearly needs alternatives. Aside from Erling Haaland, No other player in the current squad has managed to reach double digits in goals this season in the Premier League. Not even Julian Alvarez or Phil Foden, who had a better offensive performance in the previous season. Guardiola understands that the team's offensive production needs to improve, and Semeno emerges as a piece with distinct characteristics. He is fast, has a strong presence in the box, and knows how to work well in a team. Moreover, his journey shows resilience. The player has been through clubs such as Fulham, Crystal Palace, Millwall, and even Arsenal before finding his place at Bournemouth. A history that reveals a hard-working profile, something valued by Guardiola. Manchester United, however, seems to be a step ahead in the race. The Old Trafford team has also shown strong interest in the player and could be a real obstacle in the negotiation. The problem for United, however, is tied to their position in the league. If they fail to qualify for European competitions, they will struggle to convince Semeno to choose them. This could open up space for City, which has the structure, sporting project, and competitive stability to offer something more solid. Semeno has already shown that he is ready for bigger challenges, and with Guardiola as his mentor, it is plausible to imagine that he could reach an even higher level. The Catalan coach's ability to turn players into elite athletes is widely recognized, and with the need to reinforce the offensive sector, this could be one of the big bets for the upcoming European summer. What is also stirring behind the scenes is the interest in Magnus Akliouche, a young prospect from AS Monaco, who has been catching attention with strong performances in League One and the Champions League. At 23 years old, Akliouche is seen as one of the most exciting talents of his generation and has already attracted the interest of clubs such as PSG, Manchester United, and even Real Madrid. The latter speculated as a potential destination if Xabi Alonso takes over as manager. The price requested by Monaco is between 70 million and 80 million, and the arrival of Hugo Viana as City's new sporting director indicates a new approach in the market. Replacing Txiki Begiristain, Viana seems willing to bet on renewal and youth, and Akliouche fits this profile perfectly. He is creative, dynamic, and has good tactical awareness. With 6 goals and 10 assists in 39 games this season, the Frenchman shows consistency and progress. Manager Adi Hütter has publicly stated that the player is ready for a career leap, suggesting that Monaco could be willing to negotiate. Still, the potential signing raises a question. Does City really need another winger? Currently, the position is well covered, with players like Oscar Bob, Sinho, Jeremy Doku, and Jack Grealish in the squad. However, if the plan is to think medium and long term, Akliouche could be a strategic addition. The potential arrival of Magnus Akliouche fits perfectly into an increasingly clear movement within Manchester City, the strategic renewal of the squad, without compromising immediate competitiveness. With a midfield that is beginning to show signs of wear, primarily due to the age of key players like De Bruyne, and an attacking base that has yet to fully gel collectively, the club seems to be betting on a balance between youth and experience. The idea behind these moves for players like Akliouche, and even the promotion of McAtee, directly relates to the new leadership of the Sporting Directorate. With the departure of Txiki Begiristain, a historic figure in the construction of the successful City team of the last decade, Hugo Viana takes on a challenging task, maintaining the standard of excellence while simultaneously starting a new cycle of smooth transition within the squad. This silent overhaul may seem subtle to the fans, but the signs are there. Oscar Bob himself, for example, is an emblematic case. Although he has had few starts, the Norwegian was kept in the main squad throughout the entire season, even with loan proposals. The bet is that, under Guardiola's guidance, these young players can absorb the club's philosophy in depth before taking on a starring role. In this context, Akliouche would fit as a kind of bridge between the young players already in the group and those who are yet to arrive. His experience in European football, despite his youth, could speed up his adaptation, while his playing style, dribbling, technical, and fast, offers a more aggressive and creative alternative on the wings. This is without mentioning his tactical versatility. The Frenchman can play as both a wide player or a false nine, or even through the middle, which appeals to Guardiola. However, there is a clear challenge for any young player coming to City: overcoming internal competition. Players like Jack Grealish and Jeremy Doku, despite some fluctuations, still have Guardiola's trust. And for players like Akliuche, patience may be just as important as talent. The presence of veterans can also provide invaluable learning opportunities, something that Guardiola often values in his interviews. On the other hand, City may be preparing for significant departures. Bernardo Silva, for example, has an active release clause, and his desire to return to the Iberian Peninsula is a poorly kept secret. Barcelona and PSG have already inquired about the player in previous seasons, and it seems likely that the next transfer window will finally make this move a reality. Kevin De Bruyne, although still decisive when on the pitch, is already showing signs that his journey in the Premier League is coming to an end. Injuries have limited his run of games, and his tactical importance, although still crucial, can no longer be guaranteed for 60 matches per season. With rumors of a possible move to Saudi Arabian football or even MLS, the Belgian may be preparing for an elegant departure, with respect and admiration from all sides. This possible dismantling of the creative sector justifies the movement for young talents. Akliuche, McAtee, Oscar Bob, and even the French Warren Zaïre-Emery from PSG, another name speculated behind the scenes, are part of a scouting process aimed at transforming today's City into the City of the next 5 years. And for this, talent alone is not enough. A tactical, psychological, and cultural fit must be found. Guardiola's role will be crucial in this process. In his possible last year of contract, the Catalan coach could leave an even deeper legacy at the club, not just through titles, but by leaving a squad with a renewed base, a consolidated style, and ready for the future. That is why each young signing carries symbolic weight. They are investments for beyond the present. Furthermore, the club has also been involved in negotiations to maintain financial balance within the increasingly stringent Premier League rules. The departures of players such as João Cancelo, Aymeric Laporte, and Riyad Mahrez have already generated good revenue recently, and the sale of promising players with no immediate space, like Cole Palmer to Chelsea, continues to be a smart market strategy. At this point, it's important to highlight that City's financial success with planned departures is one of the secrets to their longevity at the top. McAtee, for example, could follow the same path as Palmer, being sold for a high amount, with buyback clauses or percentages on resale. This way, the club ensures both technical and financial return, even in the event of a loss. Bayer Leverkusen's interest in McAtee makes sense not only because of the player's talent, but because of the offensive and technical style of the German team under Xabi Alonso. It would be an ideal environment for his development. Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, offers more immediate minutes but less long-term technical growth. The final decision could come before the end of the season, especially if City secures a place in the Champions League final, which would shift the team's focus to other priorities. In the meantime, Manchester City fans live in a mix of expectation and nostalgia. The glory days under Guardiola may not be over yet, but the future is already beginning to take shape. Youth, more than ever, will be the protagonist. The question remains: who will have the patience to wait, who will have the courage to leave, and who will arrive ready to change the course of the club's history? As Manchester City continues its pursuit of renewal and achievements, the combination of promising young players and veterans with vast experience will shape the club in the coming seasons. Pep Guardiola's work, which is now in the final phase of his contract, has become more crucial than ever. His legacy at the City is undeniable, but will he be able to create a new dynasty? Not only with established stars, but also with the youth being developed behind the scenes? What is shaping up for next season is a more versatile Manchester City, with options not only to attack but also to defend in a smarter and more adaptable way. The arrival of new talents such as Magnus Akliuche and James McAtee could be one of the turning points in this process. In a scenario where players like Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne might be leaving, the search for creative alternatives in midfield intensifies. If De Bruyne departs, City will certainly have to find a solution to fill the gap left by his creative talent. Akliuche, for example, could be the answer to this challenge. His ability to play fluidly in midfield and on the wings would be a valuable addition to Guardiola's system, especially considering the manager's ability to adapt players to new roles, as he has done with other talents. Another important aspect will be the impact of the departures of players such as Riyad Mahrez and João Cancelo, who, despite contributing to the city's recent success, seem to be increasingly distant from Guardiola's plans. The need to maintain a balanced squad, with options in all areas of the field, will be one of the biggest challenges for the new management under Hugo Viana. City cannot afford to lose its competitiveness while seeking to incorporate new talents and stay updated in its international aspirations. Furthermore, it is inevitable that competition in the Premier League will also increase. Manchester United, Arsenal, and Liverpool have shown significant progress, and their squads are constantly being reinforced. Even Newcastle, with a strong financial project, is becoming a serious contender in the league. It is crucial for City to stay ahead, not only in terms of player signings, but also in terms of tactical adaptation and squad development. If Guardiola can instill his philosophy with the new players, the team could achieve a perfect balance between youth and experience, keeping itself at the forefront of the Premier League. The change in strategy is also reflected in the transfer market, where City has shown more caution. Signings such as Antoine Semeno may seem like an opportune move, aiming not only to strengthen the attack, but also to explore a less saturated market, with rising young players. Semeno, at 25 years old, still has great room for development, and the Premier League has proven to be the perfect stage for his skills. His robust playing style, complemented by an increasing ability to finish, makes him a viable option to partner with Haaland in attack. However, the central question remains: how to balance the development of young players with the need for immediate titles. Guardiola has already proven in past seasons that he knows how to manage this balance. The inclusion of players such as Phil Foden, who gradually made his way into the first team, shows that the manager knows how to integrate promising talents without compromising the team's quality. For McAtee, this could be ideal, given his potential and the way he has adapted to Guardiola's style of play. He has already shown that he is capable of making a difference when called upon, and perhaps the next step will be to give him the responsibility of playing more minutes and more important matches. But the arrival of new talents is not the only necessary move. As mentioned, City still needs a definitive solution for midfield. The departure of De Bruyne, combined with a possible style change with the arrival of new names, could be a catalyst for a deeper transformation in the team's play. Guardiola, known for his evolving tactics, may look for a more balanced model in midfield, prioritizing possession and controlling the pace of the game, characteristics that have always defined his philosophy. One of the biggest concerns will be how City performs in European competitions, especially in the Champions League. With the departure of key players and a possible reshuffle in the squad, the team will need more consistency in its defensive and offensive transitions. The reliance on Haaland to secure the goals will be a crucial point for the team's success. However, players like Foden, Doku, and even McAtee, if well utilized, could become the necessary fuel for the attack to function in a more dynamic and unpredictable way. The challenge is even greater when considering the psychological impact of a potential early elimination from the Champions League, which could trigger a domino effect in the club's strategic decisions. Manchester City has lived with the pressure of winning this title, and although the team has shown its strength in past seasons, a lack of consistency in the final stages still persists. The entry of new names could alleviate this pressure, but only if the squad is well balanced, with options for every situation. In the end, the biggest obstacle for Guardiola and his team will be maintaining a winning mentality. Even with a renewed squad, the players will need to understand what it means to wear the City shirt and carry the expectation that comes with it. The good news is that Guardiola has the ability to bring out the best in his players, and with a young base, he can create a new generation capable of winning titles while maintaining the club's legacy. So, folks, what do you think about Manchester City's moves and challenges for next season? How do you see the future of the team with these young talents and the possible changes to the squad? Leave your opinion in the comments. We love hearing from the fans. If you enjoyed the content and want to stay updated on everything about the best team in the Premier League, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates. We'll keep following all the news closely, so stay tuned. See you next time, citizen.